Hello, and a very warm welcome for all of you joining us today to the Linda Martin Results Unlock Your A-Team webinar. We see we've got a wonderful cross-section of attendees from Canada and the United States, with CEOs and presidents from such industries as real estate, construction, IT, education, and professional services, just to name a few. We look forward to an interactive 45 minutes to share key messages around business results being demonstrated through the effectiveness of its teams. Let me introduce the LMR team. In addition to Linda, we have our VP from our Phoenix office, Michael Coogan, who is in charge of and myself, Bridget Taylor, project manager, unlocking the key messages around your results and show you how to achieve your goals. Please know that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available. We've also posted links in the chat bar of the LMR website, as well as Linda and Michael's Calendarly schedule for you to book some time to continue this very important conversation. With housekeeping now established, I'd like to introduce Linda Martin from LMR. Linda has a wealth of experience from managing teams in over 50 countries and has worked in over 25 industries. She's been a part of an executive team that recently led a bakery from 50 million to 250 million in 3 years. She shares her knowledge by writing for Forbes magazine and Harvard Business Review, as well as being an adjunct MBA professor at 2 leading business schools. Linda had noticed the gap in the market and decided to make the shift to developing a company to show businesses how the human approach can produce extraordinary successful results with harmonized teamwork. Without further ado, here's Linda.
Thank you so much, Bridget, for that very warm introduction. And welcome to all of you. I'm welcoming you into my home here in Toronto. I do believe this is week 5 out of 6 of a stay-at-home order, but truthfully, I think we're actually at the 10-month mark here in Toronto, living under these massive restrictions, while the pandemic has run its course really over the last 14 months. As all of you know, this has been a year like no other. It has altered certainly how I live, how you live, how we work. It's been a tremendous shake-up or wake-up. And you know, it's our first shared global experience. And what I know for sure is that this has really altered our perception of the future. You know, they say in good times we enjoy, but in choppy times we learn. And I think we have all learned that moving forward, this is not business as usual. We now have to lead into the perpetual uncertainty and really into the unknown. Now, many companies are coming to us asking, how do you do that? Like, how do you prepare teams for the unknown? So before we do that, I want to share with you the thinking amongst global leaders about the past year. And if I could put that into one word, it is this: people are surviving. Now, I've also heard it called languishing, as perhaps you have in the New York Times article as well. And I wanted to go a bit deeper on this. And I want to get, first of all, all of us on the same page as to where the business world is today, because this is really where the majority of your team members are. So I'm going to put up a couple of slides, and I want to take you through my top 5 themes. And this is coming from my work with Forbes, Harvard Business Review, and the Global Team Coaching Institute. This webinar is also a curation of world experts from the World Economic Forum, MIT, and leading global firms. So my first theme in our business world today is this: is 90% of our time over the past year has been, guess what, spent working. You know, boundaries that we used to have around work and personal life have virtually totally disappeared. People are left feeling like they live in a blur. It's like there's a fogginess, like it's like Groundhog Day, as my one client said. I go to work, I eat, I sleep, I repeat. Now, in part, you know, there's nothing else to do but work while we're in this pandemic. So fair enough. So the good news is that productivity is generally up. But despite all this silver lining, we are still masking a very important trend. And that trend is this: people are tired. We are literally dealing with an exhausted workforce. And as you and I know, too much of anything is not a good thing. Right now, your teams are craving something more than work. They're craving a fresh start. The second theme of the business world today is, at the same time that we have this exhaustion, we're also seeing that the vast majority of workers, in fact, 80% of the global workforce, is not engaged. In the past year, it's bumped up a little bit, especially early on in the pandemic, because people quite honestly felt grateful to have a job or grateful to go to work. But let me ask you this: lately, in conversations that you've had with friends or colleagues, how many have said to you, I love my work right now? I mean, I've heard it a little bit from the extreme introverts, maybe about 6 months ago, but even they have said, this enough is enough. So the elephant in the room is this: it's poor engagement. The folks at Gallup, they're the big global pollster. They have measured engagement over the past 35 years, and there really has been no significant change. I personally believe that this is one of the biggest issues of our time. How can we be spending an entire day on something that we're not entirely engaged with? But people say to me, Linda, yeah, but I thought you just said productivity's up. So isn't that good enough? Well, actually, no. And the reason I say that is the biggest predictor of your profitability and innovation is, guess what? It's engagement. So I want to say this point again because it's very important. The biggest predictor of profitability and innovation is engagement. If you ever wanted an insurance policy on your success, it would be maximizing engagement. In addition, as we all know, let's not forget, engagement retains our people, our staff. Today, and this is from LinkedIn, we are just shy of 50% of your team seriously considering leaving their job. And the reason why is they want to make a major job pivot when the pandemic stabilizes, is that over the past year, we have all went through a massive reevaluation of our work and our personal lives. And people really are questioning, is this the right place for me? Am I doing the right thing? In addition, there is so much pent up demand just to spread your wings and try something new. And we all know, though, when people do this and leave an organization, it's disruptive and very, very costly. So the question I pose to you is, what are you doing to re-engage your team? My third theme is that some challenges have remained the same, and that is the fact that the number one challenge of high growth CEOs is managing people. I mean, let's face it, managing people has never, ever been easy. You've got the different personalities, you've got the different needs, different agendas. Then add to that during this pandemic, people are exhausted. They're going through massive work and personal life changes, and leaders are too. I can't tell you how many leaders have told me, Linda, I am now their boss, I'm their friend, and their psychologist. I know their cat, dog, kid, husband, grandmother. I know everything too much. And we're not even talking about managing teams. I'm just talking about day-to-day management of people. It's even harder when you manage teams. And as leaders, I know you know that, because you have to manage the interrelationship amongst the team members. Believe it or not, Deloitte's data suggests that 95% of companies, so virtually every single company in North America, is saying, you know what, I'm not really, really good at managing teams. I've even heard some people say it's like herding cats. But today, the world is more complex, and the need for teams and interconnected teams has risen dramatically. More work is being done in teams now than ever before. And that is whether it's virtual, whether it's hybrid, or whether it's live. Today in management circles, we do understand that the health of your business is now directly tied to the effectiveness of your team. The fourth theme I wanted to share with you is that, believe it or not, our work over the last 14 months has become more independent. So, despite the Zooming, the Microsoft Teaming, we have actually become more independent thinkers. Now, the reality is we're actually spending less time networking, of course, a lot less time socializing. Even with close friends, our socialization has decreased as the pandemic has worn on. But when we go back, we think back to when we were working, we had water cooler talks. Well, none of that's happening now. There's no grabbing coffee. There's no, hey, let's go grab lunch. One of my clients said to me, he said, Linda, I'll take the bad coffee and those stale baked goods and all those conventions I used to go to. I just want to have a free flow with human beings. I want to be with people. And this lack of connectivity is now showing up actually as a decrease in innovation. Innovation or creativity requires two things. Number one, deep collaboration. And number two, it takes time, both of which we have been very short of during this pandemic. We need an environment that is conducive to creativity and innovation now more than ever before, because we have to move out of this doing and being highly productive to creating. Innovation is the lifeblood of a company. And we need to bring this back to future-proof our success. And number five, without much surprise, in the past year, despite the fact that many people want the old world back, I would dare say that there is almost a unanimous agreement that this is not going to happen. There is no return to normal. The only norm that going forward we're going to see is uncertainty. This environment is now what we call a VUCA world. And what I mean by that is it's perpetually volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, it's ambiguous. We literally live in an ocean of motion. And our VUCA world is now demanding not only a new way of working, but it's demanding a new way of thinking. And it is very different and it is unlike the old. And next slide, please. So the question becomes, how do you move from surviving or languishing into the unknown? And how do you do it in a way where you and your teams thrive? How do we get this fresh start as we come out of the V of the pandemic and move into this uncertain, unknown world? Well, I want to share with you a little bit that this is what we do. We have been leading teams now, we call them A teams for many years now. We teach teams to effectively deal with the unknown. But I can tell you it's way more than teaching skills. And I say that because what matters to all of you is that there's results. It's not just learning more stuff. Every single one of our clients has had their best year ever utilizing this A-team methodology. I dare say our training is very unique. And I will also say it's not what you think it is, because it's not just the what, but it honestly is the how. It's the how that we do it that guarantees results in your company. COVID for us has pulled this conversation around teams front and center, and it has tripled our business in the last year. And a bit of a side note, our customers have really been the inspiration for this webinar today. So I really thank you for encouraging us to do this, because we were mainly reliant on word of mouth. But they were saying, you really got to get the message out, Linda. And so here we are celebrating our inaugural North American webinar. So I want us to step back and think about this for a little bit, but we are all at a major inflection point in our lives and our businesses. We all need this fresh start. After a year of substantial change, and this year more than ever, we must all reflect. We need to rethink, we need to reimagine, and I would say, most importantly, we need to re-energize the most important strategic asset that you have right now, and that is your people, that is your team. How do you help them recreate the business as we move out of this pandemic? Like, what is it that your teams can do to take you to the next level and create what is a natural next for you and your company? So, with this in mind, I want to share with you the top 5 behaviors of the most successful business teams in the world. And I encourage you to get your pen and paper out and literally write them down. I want you to think about giving your teams knowledge to embrace unknowns, because that's what they need, and give them the capability to solve any problem that comes across their desk, and embrace the question of, how do we do better? How do we innovate? This is what we do with our teams. And they ask that question every single day. Now, we call this cultivating collective intelligence. I don't know at all if you're familiar with that terminology. It's basically a move from operating as a group to operating as a team. Most of us operate as groups. This collective intelligence, it's a shared intelligence, and it emerges from collaboration, collective efforts, and the critical thinking of a team. It honestly is moving us beyond IQ or even EQ into measuring the unit of effectiveness or the intelligence of your business. So it's moving everything from an individual. Like, that's what IQ is. How smart am I? Or EQ, how emotionally intelligent am I? Now the entire world of management is moving to, as a unit, do we have this collective intelligence? So this is how teams are really moving from surviving to thriving. And next slide, please. So how do you do this? I want to start with number 1. Thriving starts with engagement. It is the absolute foundation. You cannot thrive over a long period of time without engagement. When engagement is missing, you don't have that high octane fuel. It's a desire that moves us. And when that engagement is there, though, we will dig deep and uncover a part of us we didn't even know existed. This is the prerequisite to thriving. Now, your team has to be engaged, not just collectively, but they need to be engaged individually as well. Another way to put it is, put simply, engagement produces a real commitment and an accountability to goals. So remember when I said the biggest predictor of innovation and profitability is engagement? Engagement is the key to becoming unstoppable. And when this happens, growth happens. A team must feel that they are solving one of the biggest problems. I don't know about you, but have you ever been so engaged working on something that time literally disappears? Walls disappear and you're just totally immersed in what you are creating? I mean, I certainly have. I mean, it feels amazing. It's very energizing, and that's what comes from engagement. Now, number 2, thriving also requires alignment. A team must be aligned around a common goal. Let me ask you this. Have you ever worked on a team where everyone is running around in different directions? I mean, I have. And that shows. It shows engagement, but there's no alignment. Normally, as business leaders, we're used to giving people their goals. Like, hey, Mike, here you go. Go out and make this happen. But in order to thrive, we need buy-in. You know, we all want to create something of value, something that has meaning, something that has impact to us and the team collectively. What goal can your team create to make the company purpose their own? You've got to allow them to make it come alive individually for themselves. and something they see in it as a team. Now, I'm not talking about moving outside of the overall company direction or values. What I'm talking about is allowing teams to create a goal for themselves that they own and they have bought into. One thing I know for sure is this: nobody wants to be told what to do. Now, I have been blessed with 3 older brothers and 2 older sisters, and I saw this as a very young girl. I remember telling my older brother, "You're not going to tell me what to do." That seemed to be my tagline with them. Um, if you don't have a pen, definitely I'm going to ask you to grab one right now, because what I'm going to tell you next literally changed my life. And it's this: a harmonized team is the most powerful force on earth. And you know what? It has always been that way, and it will always be that way. In fact, 97% of employees and executives believe that lack of alignment, lack of harmonization within any team dramatically impacts the outcome of any initiative. Think about this for a second. How did we put a man on the moon? Kennedy made the proclamation: we are choosing to put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth in this decade. But I'm sure you realize there were hundreds of interconnected and harmonized teams working tirelessly every day to make this happen. They made both an individual and a collective decision to make it happen. This is what I mean about alignment around a common goal. Number 3, connectivity and thriving go hand in hand. Being closely connected to each other allows us to broaden our perspective. There is no doubt that as human beings, we are pack animals. Whether it's, if we go back in history from our early roots in tribes and clans, really to the organizations of today, being connected is part of our collective human nature. Think about the work of Abraham Maslow that has really stood the test of time, his hierarchy of needs. There's 5 levels that we move up in our lifetime. The first one is basics of food and shelter, or else I'm not even going to be alive. The second one is that feeling of safety. Do I have a safe cave? Am I not going to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger? So that's the second one. The third one, though, is that need for connection. It's friendship, it's camaraderie, it's the need to feel like I belong here. One of the best things you can ever hear from anyone say on your team is this: I belong here. This is absolute gold. And the reason why it's gold, because your team or the individual is saying, I feel safe, that I am willing to give it my all here, that this is part of a connective need and it's being met. And we have heard people say this over and over again on the teams that we work: I belong here. Remember, the number one thing that you and I want and everyone on your team wants is to grow. And you know what? I don't care if you're a wee little baby learning to walk or whether you're a grandparent tending to their garden. The minute that need to grow is gone, you're dead. In the case of a business, it deteriorates. We know it's grow or die. And as human beings, our best garden for growth is to be part of something that is growing. And a growing team, I would dare say, is one of the best environments for individual growth. One of my side passions is actually trees. And I live on a treed property and I get to enjoy them every single day. But did you know that trees grow and sustain much better clumped together as one? Being connected to something is what opens our eyes, it opens our heart, and it really allows us to broaden our perspective of what is possible. No man is an island. And I know it sounds trite, but together really is better. It's creating that environment for teams to grow. My fourth theme is this: to thrive, teams must have thinking processes around how they work together, right? So they have the engagement, they have the alignment, they have the connectivity. They have to have the know how, the thinking capability on how they're going to work together. So, for example, how do they solve problems? How does a team make decisions? What do their meetings look like? How do they move around conflict? How do they deal with conflict? These are really important issues in teams. Successful business teams are really good at co-creating and innovating amongst themselves and problem solving. I mentioned our VUCA world before, but it is demanding this highly interconnected team structure is an absolute necessity to solve the problems of tomorrow. When you think about the complexity of pandemics, what about cybersecurity, things that are going on with ransom right now, or digital transformation globally? All of these are not one trick ponies. Like, we have left the world where one person can solve the complexity of tomorrow. These problems require creative, highly interconnected teams to solve them. But many teams that I've worked with say, Linda, I am not creative. That's for the marketing folks. They're the ones that are creative. But the reality is, we are all born creative. Unfortunately, our educational system has done nothing to nurture one of the most important mental faculties moving forward. And even worse, most leaders are not aware of how to develop their own creative capabilities. The World Economic Forum has stated very clearly that the top skills needed in the 21st century are, guess what? All creative skills. Whether it's problem solving, that requires creativity, whether it's critical thinking, or just pure innovation and creativity. LinkedIn, and you can check this out, is saying all day long, creativity is the number one skill that is required in the world right now. To give you an example, high performance teams that we've worked with, they've had discussions and agreements on everything that they work on, from having productive meetings to managing conflict and making decisions. They even have conversations around, well, what do we do if this behavior doesn't happen? So it's very clear. And that's what I mean by they are very connected, and they have a lot of clarity about how they work together. It's so simple, but it's not done. And lastly, number 5, to thrive, we have to have what I am calling social awareness. So what do I mean by this social awareness? Basically, being socially aware is having the ability to understand how I think, how I feel, and how I'm acting and behaving. But conversely, I have to understand how others feel, or how others perceive things, how others understand things, and how they're behaving or acting. And so it's balancing both myself and others. This term was coined by MIT, and I encourage you to do some research on it. They call it social sensitivity. Now, this skill shared equally amongst a team can definitely be one of the most challenging, but can also be one of the most important. Now, when you think about the composition of teams, you know that in most cases, they represent certain personality types. So one of them, I'll give you an example, is what I call the detractor. Now, they can also be known as a negative Nick or a negative Nancy. These people, Nick or Nancy, they don't have what I'm talking about. They don't have the social awareness of their impact on others, because most of us let them go on doing this without any sort of conversation. Now, they can be very demeaning, they can be know-it-alls, they can be hurtful. But the reality is, they just don't know what they're doing and the impact it has on others. As Thomas Edison said, 5% of people think. 10% think they think. And get a load of this, 85% would rather die than think. Thinking is a lot of work. It'll be the most work that you will ever do. And we are not taught this in any business school. I know this because I've taught MBA at 2 leading business schools. We are taught what to think. We are never taught how to think. But when teams know how to think, they can understand, first of all, how any result happens. They can actually achieve what it is that they can conceive. It's very, very powerful. So you can see that to thrive, to create what is next, we need a collective structure, but we also need to upgrade our thinking. And we do need the new skills to create and innovate and thrive. Teams also allow our learning to rapidly escalate. We learn much quicker together than we do on our own in our offices. Our VUCA world has put teams dead center at the heart of how we work. High growth companies are now becoming very, very aware of this, and they're bringing in experts like ourselves to help with the transition from groups to a collective team. Building winning A teams has come a long way from, gosh, I remember back in the day, we were running across hot flames. No word of a lie. We were running around doing scavenger hunts in big cities. Like that's what we thought teamwork was. Or the infamous team building exercise where I would lean back and hopefully my colleague caught me so I didn't land like smack on the floor. But things have really, really evolved. Today, team development is becoming the #1 strategic priority across high growth companies. Now, why is this? Because they know that 1 + 1 is 2. It is not, sorry, 1 + 1 is not 2, it is 11. So our inflection point today is this. We are leaving a world where these loosely connected independent groups working basically on deliverables is slipping away. Tomorrow is really about bringing together brilliant minds with really big ambitions. They have desire and they are working towards an aligned goal. They are moving in the same direction. They're moving lockstep. And when this happens, I can promise you, you better stand back and watch the fireworks because amazing things are going to happen. You will literally put a man on the moon in your own business. Our teams have been able to, first of all, utilize their own strengths and minimize their weaknesses through this work, and also leverage other strengths on the team and basically become unstoppable. And as human beings, honestly, this is how we were meant to work. We were meant to have a goal. We were meant to grow. We were meant to come together as a collective and be aligned. And this is why collaboration, engagement, and alignment is moving to a #1 strategic priority and a crucial role in the success of any business. So this collective intelligence is now the hottest area of management. It was actually coined by Thomas Malone from MIT, and it's all about finding answers and creating opportunities that teams would never have been able to have found on their own. So I want to stop here and thank you for listening. I know I've put a lot out there, and I can see that there's a ton of questions. We have opened up our calendar for tomorrow. And next slide, please. We are just putting the Calendly link in the chat. So I want you to either email us or text us, what time would work for you, and we can continue this conversation because I know it's more than the 45 minutes that we have. And our team will definitely make that happen. We'd love to connect with you personally. I'm just curious, like where are you right now and what are you creating next? And let's just see, are we a potential that could help you get to where you want to go? But before we start the Q&A, because I'm going to bring Bridget back on in a second, one of the biggest questions I get asked from clients, potential clients, is, Linda, how do I know if this works? And next slide, please. I would encourage you to check out our website at lindamartinresults.com to see a partial list of clients. Reflecting on why people have come to us, I can basically say they're clumping together in three major reasons. But the first thing that ties all our clients together, like numero uno, is that they want to grow. In fact, many of our clients now represent the fastest growing companies in their segment. So they're already growing at a speed and they want to sustain it, or they want to take it to the next level. So I want to talk to you about three clients and their journey with us in each of these three areas. Number one, productivity growth. So we have a lot of clients that come to us saying, I want to get all my teams to move lockstep in one direction, right? I want to be more productive. And so one of the examples is a company that is in the manufacturing section, or segment, I should say. They have a variety of plants across Canada and North America. And their goal was to get to 100% productivity, not just with the mechanics, not just with the lines or the plant, but also with their people. And so we were brought in and we worked with 8 people on their team. And they curated a group from manufacturing, from QA, from QC, from logistics, from transportation, etc. And they basically asked this team, we need your help. You guys are closest to your work. You see it differently than perhaps we do as an executive team. We want you to solve this problem. How do we become more productive? And so this was served up to the team. We worked with them over a period of 6 months, and they came back with a solution that pretty much shocked the executive team. And the solution was something that they hadn't thought of. And obviously, because they're not working as closely with some of the players that this team that was chosen did. But they came up with a suggestion that if you want to grow productivity, I'll tell you exactly what to do. You, us, we are going to create the safest manufacturing plant in the world. And that's what this team did. They retooled every safety protocol. They turned every process inside out, upside down. They literally created a movement across the 1,500 people they have at this plant to get at how are we going to do this. And the result, they saw double-digit productivity growth. They were absolutely thrilled. And they just kept building on this team theme of this is how we do it. They owned it. They came up with it. They created it and they delivered it. The next example I have is an example in revenue growth. So for any of you folks out there that want to see that dramatic jump in revenue, and I know that speaks to a lot of people, how do you do that? Well, I can tell you, you do it through teams and you allow them to bring their ideas forward. So I'm going to talk now about a technology company that is based in Mississauga. And they came to us when they were around $3 million. And today they are way north of 30. In fact, I think this is a really old number, but they 10x their business in 3 years. And similar to manufacturing, the CEO decided to bring, the technology VPs, the sales, operations, marketing together to say, I need your help. We've got a technology here that needs to see the light of day. How are we going to do this? And they made a decision with this work that they were going to go global. And that's what they did. And shortly after, I think it was like 18 months after, they won the top exporter of technology in Canada. So just absolute um, amazing accomplishments, and continue to grow and grow and grow. And so this work absolutely can go right to the bottom line and dramatically increase your top line as well. The last kind of group of customers that we've dealt with is customers who are cognizant that change is on the horizon and that they need to change their culture. And they know this because of a couple of reasons. Number one, they've had a change in management. Now, this could be a new president. This could be an entirely new executive team. This could be an acquisition and merger. And so they see this coming. They know that change is coming, and they know that the culture has to change lockstep to work with this new change. I've also seen it when there's been a massive change in strategy. Leaders come to me to say, Linda, we were here and we're going here, but my team knows how to operate here. They don't know how to operate up here. And so they understand that the culture is going to need to change to create that alignment to the new direction. I want to talk actually about a client that is in the field of education. So I'm going to go to not-for-profit education field, and this could pertain to healthcare as well. This client owned a world-renowned school in Montreal. And we were brought in to work with all of their teachers, and the executive had big expansion plans. In fact, they wanted to serve 2 times the students that they were currently serving. And so we worked with them over a period of 6 months, and they came up with a phenomenal idea, which they had never done before. It involved a lot of unique outreach mechanisms using the teachers. Actually, so it's the first time this has ever been done. And they were so successful that not only did they achieve their goal of building 2 times their student population, but the individuals that were in this group at the same time were able to raise $8 million as part of their expansion plan. So I hope that gives you an idea of why people came to us and some of the results, which is why we called this company Linda Martin Results. Because to me, it's not about training. It's actually allowing people to grow. And that's what results do. Having great results in a company, honestly, is the best gift you can give to people. But I do want to say this, that as we all know, change is not easy. But I want to leave you with something, and I want you to distinguish this today, is nobody wants to be changed. The old change management technique. But I can tell you that they can develop a desire to change. And this is what we do. We teach companies how to do this. Like I said before, we are moving into massive uncertainty and change, and you need to know how to do this. And once you do it once, trust you me, you can do it the second time. All right, I'm going to stop talking, and I am going to ask Bridget to come back on. Bridget, if you can, just go through a couple of the questions that have come through. We've also had a lot of people write in before, so we've had some advanced questions as well. So we're just going to take a crack at these.
Perfect. Thank you, Linda, for sharing all those insightful tips and information. I'm just doing a time check, and we're looking at 1:43. So perhaps we'll address one question. And for those that can continue on till the end of the hour, we can continue. But maybe after that one question, we can do some closing comments for those that need to jump off. And then we'll just continue on.
Okay, perfect.
So the first question, let's begin with, is from Susan. And she asks, the information is really great, but how do you begin to start with this?
So, Susan, it's a bit like what I was saying earlier, is that change takes time. Our program is 6 months. This does not happen overnight. We work with teams up to 10 people, but actually, Bridget, you are the absolute master on process. So I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of take them through how do we, we identify the biggest growth opportunity through our teamwork, but you take them through the rest.
Absolutely. So, in the 6 months that we're together, the team of up to 10 participants will participate in bi-weekly live facilitated sessions that are held at either in person or virtual. On the alternating weeks, the team will meet for internal practice sessions. As Linda mentioned, the goal is identified at the beginning of the program. And as we progress, the team will start to see their paradigm shift through results that are being produced. And this is due to practical hands-on job application, which is reinforced, as well as accountability through measurement tools. There's ample opportunities for leadership taking roles, Q&A, and one-on-one coaching. So that's the overall highlights. Is there anything I missed, Linda?
No, you totally nailed it as usual, Bridget. Thank you.
Perfect. So it's 1:45. So if you wanted to do some closing comments, and then we can stay on the line for the additional questions.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank all of you for listening into this webinar today. I certainly look forward to continuing this conversation with us. We'd love that opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. As Bridget mentioned, we're going to stay on probably till around the top of the hour, or take probably, at least up to 5 more questions. So if you can stay on, please continue to stay on for additional Q&A. So thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and please continue to stay on as we move through more questions. And Bridget, back to you.
All right.